The following content has been provided by RWTH Aachen University.
So today, we're going to first talk about a little model. It's also Norman. This is almost like a Norman fest here, the first couple of weeks of this class. So this is from a different book that you wrote a couple of years later called Emotional Design. It's a great book. I recommend you take a look at it. It has this orange squeezer on the cover, if you may have seen that book. And in there, he suggests a model that I really like. That's why I pulled it out there. I'm not going to use anything else from this book, but this model really sort of resonated with me because a lot of the stuff that we do and that we will continue to talk about in this class is going to be usability on a fairly rational level. You know, you guys are mostly engineers, so I'm going to try to stay rational so that you can, understand and respect what I'm saying. But there are really other forces at play when you design something and when somebody picks up an object and uses it. And those are not at all rational in the sense that I can, like measure or make a clear instruction of how it works or how it should be done. They are, they're on different levels, let's put it that way. And that's these three levels of processing. So besides the classic usability that we will be talking about here mostly, natural mappings, those kinds of things, besides that, what other forces are at play? What else influences whether something works well for a person or not? And here, there's three levels. We'll start at the most basic level. We'll put it at the bottom, sort of, kind of like the Freudian model of the it, and so the visceral level. Visceral means sort of a bodily reaction, okay, an impulse-driven reflex. This is the most basic level on which we formulate an opinion about a thing, an object, a device, whatever it is, like this car. Just by looking at it, roughly speaking, there is a very first sort of subconscious reaction of yourself, like going like, ooh, something wrong, those lines. And this reflex is sort of not controlled by a rational thinking, okay, let me see, I have 5 kids, and so we probably won't all fit into that car, so that maybe not be a good choice. That's not what's happening at the very first moment. The very first moment is, ooh. Okay, so visceral level is the reaction that is largely emotional to a product, to something that has been designed, to a system, to a website, whatever it is. But it's not quite emotions. It's more like hard-coded responses that we cannot really get around. So overall, you don't know whether this car, maybe just has a, 15 horsepower engine or like your family won't fit in there. You're not going to think about all those things at the first moment. It's just, oh, this looks cool. And the thing is that this first impression isn't just, decoration. If something is designed so that at a very physical level, people enjoy using it, that is going to improve the overall user experience because people will have a more positive relation to this object, this product, whatever you have. And that will actually sometimes help you as a designer because users will be more forgiving if there is something that isn't optimal at the classic usability level. So if something's designed so that it's really nice and you really like having it and using it, then you're going to be a little forgiving if there is the occasional glitch in the user interface. The second level is the one that we're going to be most comfortable with, or that we're going to have the most experience with at the end of this whole class, the behavioral level. This is the level of classic usability, how the system behaves based on my expectations. So those are the things, learned responses where I see something, I see a button, and I know, okay, I got to press that button. When I press it, it lights up. That's good feedback. I see I pressed the button, all that good stuff. That's a level that sort of is associated with an expectation. So, for example, am I doing the right set of actions, right? I'm using this system, and am I going to press the right button? Is this how it's supposed to be used? So while this is a level of classic usability, it's not free from emotional responses, right? Don't fall into the trap of the engineer thinking a user sitting in front of a system, basically the user is just another system that's going to execute a very, rational thing, If that's what you think, watch your mom or your dad using a new application on the internet, It's going to be full of, oh, can I press that button, or is the internet going to explode? Who knows? What happens when I type Google into Google? Those kinds of questions. So there's all kinds of hope, fear, emotional reactions of people to computers, even at that behavioral level. Okay. And same thing, the conceptual model. When I did something, oh, is that what I intended? Did it actually do what I was expecting? Those are not things, even in the 7 stages of action. When I interpret a result, I'm not free of emotions, right? This is still something that is loaded with emotional response. But it is still the thing that we basically can address in this classic usability of mappings, constraints, etc. And maybe just to tease those apart, when I see this interface, there is something wrong on the behavioral level, clearly, right? The mapping of these buttons is not very natural to what I would expect from an elevator. At the same time, when I actually go ahead and press that button, whether it feels like a high quality, stainless steel German engineering precision button, or like, a cheapo plastic, wiggly, rubbery kind of thing, that is also more on a visceral level, right? So you've probably picked up a device, in an electronics store, and you just pick it up. It's too lightweight, it's kind of wobbly, it feels not precise. You already have formed an opinion of it, without actually thinking about, are the buttons mapped in the right order or anything like that. So there's a visceral level of feeling that is somewhat different from what the behavioral level would say. But they do tend to mix. For example, if you press that button and it gives you a satisfying, click-clock, that's great on a visceral level, feels good. But it also is a very clear feedback that I actually have pressed that button on a behavioral level. All right, so yes?
Visceral level can always be like relaxing if there is something and I just look at it intuitively.
Not relaxing, no. I'm not sure if that looks relaxing to you. No, then you're driving fast cars. I mean,
like if there is something else, I just look into it and there is a feeling like I don't like it or something like that. It can be a visceral.
Oh yeah. I mean, the visceral level is basically your reflex impulse on something, your gut feeling in a way. Very, it can be positive, it can be relaxing, it can be exciting, it can be revolting, whatever. It can be I won't say disgusting, but it could be something where you say like, that doesn't look like something I want to use. Okay, so that's the behavioral level, visceral level, behavioral, and the third level is what Norman calls the reflective level. This occurs in retrospect, so this happens after the fact. It's a conscious thinking on events that have occurred, something that we humans can do, that animals can't. It involves slow, deep thinking, and it is the sort of most abstract or highest level, if you like, of emotions. Things like guilt or pride or blame or praise. And those are retained in memory. That makes them very important. What does that mean? That means, take a look at this watch. There's a couple other things about this watch that you might think about. On the visceral level, you could maybe pick it up and feel whether it's heavy and feels like quality product. On the behavioral level, you could check out whether this twiddly wheel on the side is actually a good size to reach, and whether you can easily turn it. But all this time, something else is happening, right? Something is saying, "It's a Rolex." Right? So and the fact that it's a Rolex, that's not a visceral response. It's not something that speaks to your animal self or anything. You've learned that Rolex is a brand that people admire and that is supposed to have very high quality and all those things. And when somebody wears a Rolex, they're probably crazy rich. And all those things play a part. So you've learned those things over time. You've slowly, consciously formed a model of, okay, Rolex, that's an expensive brand. And that's what influences positively your picture of this object, no matter what the other levels are. So in a way, you could say, on that third reflective level, it's about when I use or own or display this object, and when I wear that Rolex, it's not so much about what I think of it, but it's about what other people will think of me, because I have a Rolex. So you're sending messages through products. You are working on a level of culture at this point. There is a meaning of a product, an image of a product, if you like, prestige. Those things are part of the reflective level of design.
This content was provided by RWTH Aachen University.